Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Andrew Musgrove here. Hope you guys are all doing well. Please hit thumbs up on YouTube. Hit subscribe to the channel as well and get into the comments. If you're listening later on our audio-only platform, do leave us a rating and review. As always, this show is sponsored by Saily, the place you need to go if you're going on holiday and you want your eSIM so you can stay connected while abroad. 200 destinations to choose from. It's affordable, it's secure, and you're supporting the podcast at the same time. Click the link in the podcast description box for a discounted offer. Thank you very much for doing so. Now, today's show is primarily going to be based around Marc Guehi and why I think Newcastle United are quite right to be back in for the Crystal Palace defender. I've said over the last month or so not to write that deal off because I've been hearing things in the background, and reports this week from various outlets have indeed suggested, at least, that Marc Guehi is back on the radar of Newcastle United. More on that in a moment, because we're going to start with the news that Manchester United have finally put a bid in for Benjamin Sesko. Yes, the saga for the Leipzig striker has taken the turn that we expected. Newcastle have been at the table with a bid of 80 million euros up front and 10 million euros add-on. Now Manchester United have come and they've put a upfront bid-in of 75 million euros with 10 million add-on, so less than the overall package that Newcastle United have offered. But sources suggest that both offers will be accepted and it will be down to Benjamin Sesko where he plays his football next season. And if you're asking my gut, if you're asking my heart, what I think will happen, I think he goes to Old Trafford. I think he joins Manchester United. If reports are to be believed, the Manchester United are one of those clubs that are special to him. Even a suggestion that there was a reduced fee available for certain clubs of Sesko's choosing to agree, a move that hasn't been confirmed, but that's what was whispered. I've had it said to me, like various other outlets have reported, that he has indeed told both Manchester United and Newcastle United that he wants to join. In the words that were said to me were that he's playing both clubs. Now, look, I guess on one hand, that's a bit cheeky. On the other hand, you say, well, actually, this is the biggest move of his career to date, probably going to be the biggest move of his career. So he's going to want to keep everyone sweet. He's also going to want to get the best deal. Unfortunately, I think he rejects Newcastle United. I am fully prepared for a rejection. And we've had a few of them this summer, so it won't come as too much of a surprise. It's just another frustrating move that just hasn't come off. And it is a blow for so many reasons. Because again, this is someone Newcastle United have looked at and courted and done their homework and their due diligence on, and they really, really like him. They've also been ambitious and aggressive when it comes to getting this deal sorted. You know, they thought the deal was on, and they thought it was off, and then it was back on, and then they've obviously met the asking price. The fee had to be a little bit restructured, but they went back and there was confidence. And why shouldn't there be? You know, they've done everything they possibly can. They've really sold the project and the club to Sesko, and that's all you can do. But it's getting to the point where we can't keep complimenting the ambition and the approach when these deals aren't coming off, because that doesn't help Eddie Howe. That doesn't help the squad. The window closes in what, 3 weeks' time, and Newcastle United's squad is not equipped for the season to come. And if they lose out on this deal, there will be so much frustration, but they cannot feel sorry for themselves because simply they don't have the time to. They really, really don't. They need to get a striker in. And either it's a striker to play alongside Alexander Isak, because don't forget, and I'm sure you haven't, that is playing away in the background. Eddie Howe is going to have face-to-face talks with him, and he's got to persuade him in many ways that this is the place to stop for at least the next year. But also Eddie Howe's got to be convinced that Isak's heart and head are at Newcastle United. And I'm not too certain it is. I think even if you persuade Isak to stay at Newcastle for the next 12 months, I would still have doubt, as I said on the Monday show, whether he's fully committed. It is a mess. It is frustrating. It is something I don't envy having to control and manage via Eddie Howe, Steve Nixon, or Jamie Rubin, or the PIF. It's just been one of those summers which you just can't quite believe. And look, Sesko's signing would have been a huge statement. It really, really would have been. Because of the magnitude of the player, you know, his reputation, his potential. People expect him to go to the very, very top. He's been looked at by Liverpool, by Arsenal, by several top clubs. But Newcastle United were potentially going to sign him. It would have been a warning to to other rivals that we mean business. We might have had a disappointing start to the window, but we're going to finish it strongly. And from being at that point, Sunday, Monday, it's now flipped, and potentially it's going to be another one rejecting Newcastle United, and you just feel, as fans and as journalists, you just think, where next? Who is next? Because if those talks between Eddie Howe and Alexander Isak don't quite go to plan, and say that Isak really pushes to leave in the next few weeks, then what do Newcastle United do? Because with all due respect to Johan Wissa, I'm a big fan, but he's not the replacement for Alexander Isak. There's not a chance that Newcastle United can go into that new season or the end of the transfer window with Johan Wissa, Willis Sula, and Anthony Gordon is a central striker. It just doesn't work. Wissa comes in to replace Callum Wilson, in my opinion, and he'll be a great addition. But if Isak wants to leave, Newcastle United need to go out and find someone of his quality, and Sesko was probably the most realistic option, the best option around, given other rejections and what have you. Name me a player who you replace Isak with, and I'm struggling. I really am struggling. And it's amazing to think how up and down we get, because Sunday and Monday we were looking rosy and potentially having Sesko and Wissa and Asula, or Wissa and Isak and Sesko, and now we're thinking, what's next? It's just one of those. If I could just click my fingers and wake up on September the 1st and transfer business be done, that's what I would love to do. Unfortunately, I can't. And unfortunately, I can't click my fingers and have a decision from Benjamin Sesko for you. But Benjamin, if for whatever reason you're watching and listening to this, please make a decision in the next 12 hours. We don't have the time to let this drag on. Let's just make a decision one way or the other. I hope it's in favour of Newcastle United, but let's get this decision done and dusted so we can move on either in a celebratory mood or to a new target. And if it is a new target, please don't let it be Nicholas Jackson. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Hopefully, it won't come to that, and Newcastle United will have managed to sign Benjamin Sesko. Let me know in the comments how you think this one's going to play out. Marc Guehi next. As I said at the start, I've been saying for weeks, don't write this deal off, because I've been hearing little whispers here and there about Newcastle's interest. And this is what Newcastle United do. They like a player, and if they don't sign him at the first time we're asking, second time we're asking, if he's still available, if there's still a chance to get it done at some point, they'll go back into him. And thankfully, Marc Guehi is the right age that, even though they want to sign him last summer, he's still only 25. He's got the best years ahead of him. For me, the news that they are considering a bid is no surprise, as I said. And I think it's a deal they have to get done. And I know there's others being linked. Milak Dior is back on the radar. Scalvini is being linked, and several other players abroad have been linked. But for me, Marc Guehi is my number one choice at centre-back. Now, Crystal Palace won £50 million for him. He's got 12 months left on his contract. And I know a lot of people watching this and listening to this say you cannot pay £50 million for someone who's got 12 months left on his deal. You certainly can. You certainly can, because he's worth so much more than that. So much more than that. And he's a top defender. 132 appearances in the Premier League, 23 England caps. Last season, he won 54% of aerial duels. And I know a lot of people have a question over whether he's any good in the air, but to put that into context, Fabian Schär won 44% of aerial duels. Dan Burn, who won the most aerial duels in the Premier League with 146, won 66%. So, he's better there in the air, according to the stats, than Fabian Schär, and he's up there with some of the top performers. Don't worry about his aerial presence. He won 66% of his attempted challenges, 83.5% of his passes were completed, so he can play out from the back, which is really important on Eddie Howe's approach to games. He is a top-class defender. And for me, £50 million, I'm not going to say it's a bargain, because it's a lot of money, and I get the argument with 12 months left on his contract, but I'm not turning my nose up with that. If Newcastle can get that deal done, get it done. Do it. £50 million for me, it's you're getting such a good defender, someone who instantly improves that back line. He's a leader, Crystal Palace captain, international footballer. It just makes sense. And you've watched him, and you've scouted him, and you've followed him for so long. You know what you're getting. So go out and get Marc Guehi for me. Don't take the risk on someone like Scalvini or Theo. Theo is a decent enough centre back, but it was only 2 weeks ago he was linked to Como. That's not a top class team. Marc Guehi, I think, is a better defender than him. I think he's a better defender than Scalvini. He's Premier League proven, which I know a lot of you guys aren't on board with all the time because of the inflated prices. But for me, that's so important. And I think you bring Marc Guehi, and there's no question whatsoever he would hit the ground running and really improve this starting 11. I think if you go for Scalvini, it's a bit of a risk with his injury record as well. And if you look at Marc Guehi's injury record, he's only missed 16 games through injury since 2020. He does not get injured. He is fit. And that's something you don't necessarily have with Scalvini, who's got that kind of major injury, really. He missed the majority of last season. So for me, Marc Guehi just makes sense. And I hope Newcastle United get that done. On the 12 months again, look, Dembele joined PSG from Barcelona for just over £43 million. He had 12 months left on his contract. Teams do spend a lot of money, even though players have just 12 months remaining on their deals. It's not a big thing. It's really, really not. And I would just say to you, if you've got any doubts about Marc Guehi's price tag, £50 million gets you the deal done. What would he be worth if he was on a contract of 2, 3, 4 years? Probably double that, in this daft market. He is worth £50 million right now. Thankfully, some of you chaps who responded to my request to get in touch on X about Marc Guehi agree with me. Some of you do not. I'm going to read through some of the responses. I had 44 of you got back in touch, which is absolutely brilliant. So Reza is one of those who does not agree on the price point. He says, it would be insane to pay £50 million for a guy with a year left on his contract. We look elsewhere. Arnold says, get a deal done would be an improvement. Richard says, I don't care how long his contract is. £50 million is a good value for a very good defender. Eric says, my first choice, it's centre-back. Premier League experience is crucial. Seems to be a top character as well. I'd say 45 million would be fair, given a 1 year left on his deal. Darren Jokes, can't wait to miss out on him. Was so fun last season. Dom says he'll be going up against Liverpool. Yeah, the information I have is that Liverpool are still very much at the table. It's Liverpool and Newcastle who are the most interested parties. Liverpool, though, don't want to pay more than 35 to 40 million pounds. And I think from what I've been told, that's where Newcastle are as well. It's the price point. They're kind of in the boat of some of you guys who've got back to me. It's whether you pay 50 million pounds for someone with 12 months on their deal. I think as the window nears that close on September the 1st, that might change. And obviously Newcastle might hold out a little bit longer than this week or the week after to see if Crystal Palace's resolve can be tested, because if he doesn't go this summer, then you lose him on a free next summer. But my information is that Crystal Palace are actively looking for replacements now. They like Inter Milan's Jan Bizak, who has got a valuation of 40 million euros. So they expect Marc Guehi to go, is my understanding. And I think what we will see is, if it doesn't move this week, I think we'll see it move in the week before the transfer window shuts. But I don't necessarily think that brings the price down, because I think Crystal Palace will hold out. And I think someone from a buying point of view, whether that be Newcastle or Liverpool, will bend and then break on Palace's price point. And whether that's 45 million up front and 5 million add-ons, or 40 million up front and 10 million add-ons, I'm not too sure. But I think Palace will get their 50 million pounds that they're after, and I think he is worth it. We've got tops in zero chance Newcastle can beat Liverpool in the transfer race. Toonami TX says top class on and off the pitch. Premier League proven, too many get hung up on their own goals, but he's a top player. Relative unknown Botman was 35 million and Guehi surely worth 50, but we will underbid in his opinion, and the sides will be alerted again. And he says would be an excellent signing. Can't see Palace accepting less than 50. Ian says couldn't care about the money, just get the deal done. What else have we got? James says, why are we going for players like this? We will not get him. A top 6 club will trump our bid and salary package. And I understand that the way the summer's gone, people are feeling very negative. The way this Sesko chase is potentially going to go, it's going to compound your negativity. But Newcastle United and Marc Guehi, I think, I think it's a project that he would be interested in. I don't think wages would be an issue. Obviously, James is right there. If Liverpool come in, they can automatically offer him a lot more money than what Newcastle United can. I suppose it's just about which project he thinks is better. And you've got to remember, in a World Cup year, Marc Guehi needs first team football, and I think he joins Newcastle United. And as good as Dan Burn was last season, he will probably drop out for Sven Botman, and Fabian Schär for me will drop out for Marc Guehi if that deal was done. So I think he comes in, obviously not as a guaranteed first team start because that doesn't happen anywhere, but I think it would be his position to lose really. Whereas he goes to Liverpool, is he going to be first choice this season? I don't think he will be. And that's why maybe Palace will have a chance to keep him. But of course, they don't want to lose him for nothing next summer. But the World Cup and a place in that England squad, I think, will play a really huge part in where he ends up. Adrian says we need to offer the asking price and move on. Sharpish, we've wasted far too much time on targets where we're not willing to meet the club's valuation and wage demands. Mystic Mag says we've got to forget the contract situation. Liverpool want him for free. We won't get him, so use it to our benefit. The contract is holding Liverpool back. So if he's worth 50 million last summer, then he is now. And I agree. And he makes a good point here. Also, plug in and play compared to Scalvini and Chris adds. Good player, exactly what we need. A bit of pace and Premier League proven 40 million be a good deal. We need to get a move on though. Paul says offer 50 million with 48 hours to decide. Get player terms agreed. So medical is ready to go within 40 hours or move on. We've got Bruno and UFC saying pay the 50 million. He's worth it and it will beat off Liverpool. So there we go. Most on board with that. A lot of people worried about how Newcastle United might approach this proposed move. Callum says he would love Guehi at Newcastle. England experience, Premier League experienced, and would be prepared to go north of 40 million for him. It's just whether they can get the deal done in this summer. Hasn't left too many of you confident that they can. Hopefully they can. The interest is there. I think this isn't one that's going to happen imminently. I think it's the end of the window sort of deal, but they should definitely do it. I think for me, it just makes sense. Premier League proven, England international, 25, a leader. What's not to love? Hopefully this deal gets done. And fingers crossed, my negativity and downheartedness on Benjamin Sesko is misplaced and he becomes a Newcastle United player, because not only do we not want to lose out on Benjamin Sesko because of the talent he is, according to people who have followed him, we also don't want to have to go back to the drawing board and try and find another striker to bring in of his quality. It's a mess. It's not something I envy, as I've said, of those leading the transfer charge. They've tried, been ambitious, they've been aggressive. It's just not worked. But goodness me, time is running out and it needs to start working, because that squad needs to improve before Newcastle start their Premier League and European campaign in a matter of weeks. Anyway, this has been Everything is Black and White podcast. Get into the comments. Let me know what you think about anything we've spoken about today. We're going to hold a special Q&A on Wednesday with Aaron Stokes and Newcastle United. So get into the comments if you want any questions asked of Aaron, or on X via Chronicle NFC, via ADM Musgrove, or the email address is the EIBWpodcast@reachplc.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. Get into the comments, as I said, and I'll get back to you. Enjoy your Tuesday evening.